Hey everybody, as always, thank you for tuning in. This podcast is brought to you by Draft Thunder. Come to us for all your daily fantasy needs.
Welcome to the NFL Preseason Week 1 podcast by Draft Thunder. I'm Andrew, and this week we'll be doing things a little bit differently. So normally me and Ben are able to get together and do the podcast every week, but we had some scheduling conflicts. So what we'll be doing is I'll be taking the first half of the show where I talk about quarterbacks, running backs, and defenses. And he'll take the second half where he'll be talking about his wide receivers and tight end. As we stated in our NFL DFS strategy show, we talked about how preseason is basically going to be our focus on doubling up our money, doing cash lineups, and trying to build our bankroll. There aren't really too many big contests, as we stated before. So this week we're not looking for that first place, those home run contests. We're looking for the players that will definitely get you points and will definitely make you cash. So I'm going to start out by talking about the quarterbacks for this week. And the first game that I'm going to focus on is Tampa Bay versus the Dolphins. So I'm not focusing on the Dolphins this game. Ryan Tannehill will be starting, I assume, coming off of injury, and he'll probably get a little bit of playing time going in. And they have 5 quarterbacks with Jay Cutler, Fales, Matt Moore, and Bryce Petty. So that's a little too much going on there for me. My main focus of this week for quarterbacks is teams with 3 or less quarterbacks. I looked at trends from last season, preseason week 1, and the teams that had the most successful standout quarterback would be teams of 3 with one big starter, like let's say Tom Brady, and then 2 other backup quarterbacks. So with the Buccaneers, they actually have 4 quarterbacks, but Jameis happens to be out for this game as he's suspended at the beginning of the season, so this leaves only 3 quarterbacks, as I stated before. Now, we are looking at the starting quarterback for this game being Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick is somebody who they can kind of rely on as a starter for while Jameis Winston is suspended, so they're going to kind of want to protect him. He's kind of getting older, and they don't want to put him out there in the first preseason game that much. They'll probably put him out for the first drive, as many of these teams will be doing with their starters, just get a feel of the game flow and everything like that to get used to the environment. So he'll play 1 drive most likely, and then after that, I think that we are going to see Ryan Griffin, who has received significant work with the second team offense in Thursday's camp. Now this is a good sign for us looking in at the first week of the preseason, because normally what's going to happen, like I said, that first string quarterback, if they're good, if they have a solidified role in the team, will most likely play a drive, and then we're going to see the second team for a while. We're going to see them probably for the rest of the first quarter, the second quarter, and the third quarter. That's the trend that in most last season. So we'll see him playing a lot during this game, and guaranteed minutes are what we're looking for. Now, I don't like to go too much in defenses in the preseason, like going against them, because we don't really know what to expect. But we know Miami's defense is already weak, so honestly, I cannot imagine their second string defense being any better. Ryan Griffin, I don't know what too much to expect out of him, but I know he will get the minutes, and I know that minutes mean points normally. So that's my first quarterback for this week. My second one is going to be from a team that we look to put points a lot, which is the Patriots. Now, Patriots were probably the best team to target last preseason because they are a team who only likes to carry 3 quarterbacks. This is including Tom Brady, and Tom Brady is getting up there in age too. So, this is great for us because they don't even play him the first drive of the preseason because they know they have with him. They know he's got the chemistry of the team. They know he has the experience. So they don't even put him out there. They don't want to risk that. That would be devastating, and there would be so many news stories because of it. Now, there are only 2 other quarterbacks on that team. Do they scare me? Yes. But it's really worth it for the minutes they're playing and the team that they're on. Now, we are looking at Brian Hoyer and Danny Etling as the 2 quarterbacks after Tom Brady. We know Brian Hoyer has been in the league for a while. He has been jumping around a bunch of teams. I don't love him, but he has the experience, and he should be able to bring us completed passes and probably touchdowns and a lot of passing yards with this game. I think they're going to play him a lot. They're probably going to play him the first half guaranteed, and hopefully the first 3 quarters. Now, looking back at last year when they had Jacoby Brissett and Garoppolo, Garoppolo's obviously the second string, and he completed 22 out of 28 passes in that first preseason game. He got 235 yards and 2 touchdowns. That was the number 2, and then Brissett as the 3. Brissett they wanted to see some of because they were actually looking to trade him, which they eventually did because they knew he had the talent. Now Garoppolo, they wanted to make sure he was that second string. He really came out last year, and then he had to eventually step in for Tom Brady those first few games, so they wanted to see what he had. They're probably afraid of Tom Brady getting hurt, I can only assume. Just in case that happens, they want to make sure their backup can come to play. Brian Hoyer, not sure if he can come to play, but they definitely want him to get to that point. So they're going to play him a lot during the preseason, definitely this first game, bring him out there, hopefully get him going. I think he's the best quarterback of the week. Highest floor in my opinion, definitely going to get the most guaranteed minutes out of any team, and he will probably be who I'm putting in most of my lineups. The third quarterback that I'm considering is on the Redskins. That is Colt McCoy. Now this is because they are also in the same situation where they have 3 quarterbacks. Now they have Alex Smith, who also older quarterback, not necessarily like super young, not super old, he's kind of in the middle, but they don't want to really risk anything with him. They just got him in the offseason, so they don't want to get him hurt either. They definitely want to get him fused within the lineup though, so we will definitely be seeing him for at least a drive during this game, I can only assume. And then after that, we'll be seeing a lot of Colt McCoy. Now, Colt McCoy also did well last year in the preseason for the Redskins. He's used to playing with the second unit, I'm only sure. And I think that he will hopefully have the flow and the minutes to get some points this week. So if I'm not playing Brian Hoyer, then I'm definitely going to be playing Colt McCoy in my lineups. Tampa Bay is a little more risky, but I'm pretty sure you'll get the minutes there. One thing that I need to reiterate as you are going into this week, this is getting recorded on Wednesday night and Wednesday morning for Ben. So what I need you to do is please follow our Twitter. Please follow our Twitter. Last week we talked about Josh Woodrum, and then we learned that Robert Griffin was starting the game, and that meant so much impacted the game, and Robert Griffin then became our top player because we knew he was guaranteed almost an entire first half of play, which he was, and then Woodrum barely got a little bit of the second quarter. So we tweeted out that switch, and please just be ready for those things. The more news that comes out, the more we can make an optimal lineup, and these are just advice for the scenarios that we think will happen, but then closer to lock time there will be guaranteed things that we can talk about. So please follow our Twitter. This isn't just so we gain followers, it's so that we can get you the best information possible for you to cash in your lineup. So now I'm going to move on to the running backs, and one of the teams I'm focusing on is the Panthers. Now, same strategy. We want to focus on these teams that have less running backs competing for less positions and more top-tier running backs solidify their position. Now, the Panthers have Christian McCaffrey. They apparently want him to be a workhorse this season. They want him to get a ridiculous amount of carries. We'll see if that happens, but for the most part, we want to look at that third-string running back. Now, they picked up C.J. Anderson. Christian McCaffrey will probably get a few carries just to, again, get used to the role, get into it. Then C.J. Anderson will get a pretty decent amount. Probably what I'm assuming is that's going to be first quarter leaked into the second quarter, but then we're going to start seeing a mix of Cameron Artis-Payne. He is a guy who is normally competing with Fozzie Whitaker for the third string on this team. Now that seems kind of crazy, competing for the third string. What's even the point? They probably will barely see the field. But Fozzie Whitaker is on IR. This means that with them knowing what they have in McCaffrey, them knowing that Anderson's a pretty good running back and they can trust him, this leaves a lot of room for Artis-Payne to get some reps and for him to see a good workload in this game. So definitely look for him. He's got the catching ability, and he should give you everything that you really need. The next team that I'm going to talk about has a very messy situation for running backs. It is the Green Bay Packers. Now, we all know that there's Ty Montgomery, Aaron Jones, and Jamal Williams. They're all going to be those guys fighting for those 2-3 spots. The top spot, we don't really know what to expect out of them. But the good thing is they will probably stay away from using most of them because they kind of know what they have already. Aaron Jones is out. And Ty Montgomery and Jamal Williams probably get limited playing time. Now, behind them is Devontae Mays, who just got hurt at practice and is questionable for the game. Now, this is a little bit more of a risky play, but the next guy up is, I'm going to botch the name, Joel Buagnon. That's probably very wrong, but you'll know who to play when you go on your app and choose the running backs. This is a little bit more of a risky play, I'm not going to lie to you, because we don't expect out of his backfield, like I said. But to me, all the pieces add up, and I think that he's going to get a lot of playing time in this game. He's apparently a guy who is young, he's talented. He suffered a knee injury, which backtracked him as he got drafted last year. He was on Chicago. He's a free agent after that. He got cut. But the Packers haven't interested him since 2017, so they've definitely seen something, and they want to bring him out onto the field and see what he's got. So that's another play to look into with the low amount of running backs on that team that have something to offer. The next team up is the Colts. Now, the Colts have a running back called Nyheim Hines. He is their third string currently right now for running back behind Robert Turbin and Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack is probably the guaranteed starter. They expect him to be a star this year. I don't know if that's going to work out. I'm not looking at him in fantasy, honestly. Not yet, at least. But this is good for us because hopefully he stays away. The Colts stay away from playing him in this game. And with Robert Turbin out because of suspension, this really opens up the battle for that second string, third string spot. Nyheim Hines looks like a perfect option. So in training camp, he's using the backfield in the slot and out wide in minicamp. So hopefully he's going to be a big part of the offense. They want to see a lot out of him. They expect a lot out of him if they're playing him in all his different positions. So we really see a lot that he has to offer to hopefully, a fantasy perspective, to score, receiving points are huge and then possibly getting in the end zone. So he's definitely a good guy to look at. There are two other running backs behind him that we do have to really kind of consider. One being Christine Michael, who we have seen in the past. He was on the Seahawks last year, and they're playing the Seahawks. So I actually think that they might do a little something with that. That's a situation that's up in the air, but I know that Hines is going to get a good amount of minutes this game. We're going to see a lot from him, hopefully, if the Colts can start moving the ball. I know they really want to, and I know that we will be seeing him with Brissett, so that could really be explosive for fantasy options here, being paired with a good quarterback compared to some other teams who they don't really get paired with that. The two other teams that we're looking at with running backs would be the Eagles and the Titans. They are teams that have 6 running backs right now that are listed on the slate. Now, a thing about these running backs, and even with the teams that you see ridiculous amounts like 9 or 10 or something, a lot of it's because they're on special teams and they'll be used for kick returns and punt returns, and they're testing them out for that and then keep them on the practice squad. But we want to still go for the lower end teams, and one being the Eagles. Eagles have some running backs where they have a lot of experience from. Now we know that they still have Darren Sproles, and they still have Wendell Smallwood and Jay Ajayi and Corey Clement. They all kind of have experience with the Eagles. Now, some guys that don't they picked up would be somebody like Matt Jones. Matt Jones is somebody that we've seen a lot of in the past with the Redskins. He was really good for the Redskins, in my opinion. But right now they have him listed as the 4th-string running back. That is not even considering Wendell Smallwood, who I think is going to be on the roster. So Matt Jones will be fighting for this. He's going to be determined, and he's going to want to show what he's got. And I know that he has some skill. So seeing him being as one of these lower-string guys and probably getting the minutes where the Eagles want to see what he has also, I'm sure they're as excited about him as I am, he can really have some upside fantasy potential in this week. Now, do I know if he'll make the team? No, I do not. Probably not. But he's definitely somebody to consider. Not one of the safer options, as I've stated before, but I like the looks from this week. Now, the Titans, with their situation, that's a little sticky also. But it's something that I love because we know that Deion Lewis and Derrick Henry are 2 really good running backs. They showed what they got last year. Deion Lewis up in New England and Derrick Henry being the backup. they both definitely come with that star potential. And they probably won't be seeing the field as much either, honestly. It's just to get used to the offense. They'll get a player or two, maybe a drive or two. But then, after them, is Akram Wadley. I'm sorry if I pronounced his name wrong, too. He's somebody that the Titans are also excited about. He will be their third string. Like I said, third string is what we're probably shooting for this week. And I think that he is in the perfect spot. He's probably one of the running backs that I'll be playing. It is a team with 6 running backs. There are some people behind him, but I think that he's going to be the one fighting from the third position. They're going to be wanting to see the most out of him, if I could assume. And they say that he's really quick. They say he's very agile. They say he's got hands. So there's a lot to really look forward to in him. He had great stats in college, and he got drafted this year in the 5th round. I think that he's got the fantasy upside that we need to look for with the high floor of being that third string running back. It's not like we're not going to see him at all. They wouldn't waste that draft pick on him. So he's somebody that I will definitely be considering this week, along with those other running backs. And those are all the guys on my radar. Now, there definitely are players that will probably score higher than the guys that I said, and there are 100% players that are going to score lower than I said because they won't be offered the same opportunity. I am not focusing on 100% talent. I'm more focusing on the players that I know will get the minutes that they'll need to be able to have a chance to score, to have a chance to get those attempted yards, to have a chance to catch that pass. So if you're listening to this podcast, these guys are going to be the guys who will help you cash. Now, again, gotta stay posted on Twitter. We might come out with better options. There's a lot that can change right before lock, and depends on the situations, like with Robert Griffin this week. Now I'm going to talk about defenses, and defenses are hard with the preseason. The thing is, there are going to be a lot of messy plays. There are probably going to be some pick sixes, fumble sixes, a lot of interceptions, a lot of fumbles, some kick returns for touchdowns. It's very unpredictable, but we can try our best to see what teams will be successful. It's kind of hard to gauge young talent, too, with the second string defenses because you don't hear too much about them. Instead, what I'm focusing on is the backup quarterbacks and if they are trash. Now, one team that I'm focusing going against is the Buffalo Bills. That quarterback situation is an absolute disaster. Nathan Peterman, we all remember what he did last year. He threw 5 interceptions against the Chargers, and he played for the Bills last year. And yeah, he's still on the team. I remember that week we played the Chargers, and that was just a great week for us. I cashed in all my lives, and I think I won a lot of money that week because playing that defense. He is likely going to be the starter somehow. So they have him, McCarron, who I think should probably be the starter at this point, and Josh Allen, who's a rookie. There's a lot going on in this offense. They're all fighting for the position. They're probably in their own heads. They might be trying super hard, but they might try a little bit too hard, try and fit some tight windows with passes. And with the running back situation going on with LaShawn McCoy, they definitely want to get the passing game going. And this could be a huge problem. So I'm thinking the Panthers defense have a high potential of scoring and making some plays. The only other situation that I really see is the Bears quarterback situation. Last week against the Ravens, we saw that they were kind of a mess. Chase Daniel and Tyler Bray both were throwing crazy interceptions, and they were just not playing well. And the Bengals defense isn't too bad. Again, we don't really know what to expect out of second-string defenses, but we saw what the other quarterbacks had to offer on the Bears. So think about playing the Bengals defense. Think about playing the Panthers defense. Really play whoever's defense that you truly believe in, whose quarterbacks you don't believe in. Some teams that I would definitely not go against would be teams like the Colts, who have good backups, and teams like the Patriots, who just have established offenses. So be logical when you make the choice, but really, any team can score great this week on defense. So that's all that I have for you today, and now I'm going to take it over to Ben, who will bring you through the wide receivers and tight ends.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Draft Thunder podcast. I'm Ben. We're going to be trying something a little bit different this week. Because of time constraints, me and Andrew weren't able to get together. So we're going to be recording on our own. We both have a couple positions that we're going to go through for each of us. So hopefully a little bit of each of our more dedicated time to each position is going to help out this week, and hopefully you guys enjoy it still and get good information from it. So my position groups that I'm going to be talking about today are wide receivers and tight ends. It's a tough position here in the preseason because there's so many guys on each team, with it being such a big slate too. Each team is 10 or 12 deep at wide receiver with 90 guys on the roster, but hopefully we're going to be able to give you that edge in this preseason week 1 to play the right guys, play the right pass catchers, and hopefully they catch a couple touchdowns or catch a bunch of balls and set themselves apart from the rest of the competition. So like we talked about in the Hall of Fame game, this is going to be a lot of the team's first preseason game, obviously besides the Ravens and the Bears. So it's going to be very similar. You might see some starters, but they probably won't get too much time. Usually you only see starters go about a quarter, if that. Most only go 1 or 2 drives. Teams still really aren't into hard-hitting practices or ramped-up practices yet. They're just getting into their stuff, so they don't want to see their starters get hurt in the first week of preseason and not be able to have them for the rest of the regular season. So we're going to be targeting those guys that are maybe down on the depth chart or fighting for a position, fighting for their job, or trying to settle in, make a good impression somewhere. Maybe they're a rookie that's looking good, or a veteran that's trying to make a good impression on a new team. So I'm just going to go ahead and get into it. Starting at wide receiver, this isn't going to go in order of who I think is best. I'm going to give you a bunch of guys and then maybe give you 3 or 4 of the guys that I think are in really good spots. So I'm going to list off about 9 wide receivers that I think are in good spots, and then I'll go circle back around to a couple that I think I'm going to be playing this week. So they're just going to go in chronological order of time that they start. So starting in Cleveland, I think Rashard Higgins is in a very good spot to succeed this week. As we know, they just traded Corey Coleman to the Browns, and Antonio Callaway was supposed to be the next guy up sort of in that role, and he just got cited for a marijuana possession. So they haven't handed down any disciplinary action on him yet. They're still trying to gather all the details and go through the legal things. But as of now, we don't know if he's even going to be playing. So I think there might be a little time here for Rashard Higgins to show what he has. We've seen him before, even in the regular season. He's got some talent. He can catch some passes. He can get open. So I think he might see this as an opportunity and try to seize that. We know they have Jarvis Landry, Josh Gordon, so they kind of have those first 2 guys set. Maybe he can slide into the 3rd wide receiver position and show what he has here with maybe no Callaway, or Callaway sort of in the doghouse. The second guy I'm going to talk about, we've actually seen before, Javon Wims. He was the star of the Hall of Fame game. I saw 10 targets. A lot of it was mop-up time, but he's a really talented guy. Watched him a bunch in college. I wish I would have jumped on him last week. But, he caught 7 passes out of those 10 targets. He's still raw. He still needs to show what he has. He's still fighting for a spot on that team. Like we said last week, Chicago brought in a couple receivers. So there's no guarantee. It's just been 1 preseason game, and it was mop-up time. So here we're hoping maybe he gets a little bit more action with maybe the 2s instead of the 3s, and then still get that mop-up time at the end. So he should see a bunch of targets. He's really talented, should be able to catch some passes here and maybe even catch a touchdown for us. I think Javon Wims is in a good spot here. Next thing I'm going to talk about is Roger Lewis on the Giants. So we all know the situation. Odell is their guy. And they don't have a ton after him. Sterling Shepard is good. He's been injured. But after that, especially, you're looking at Roger Lewis, a bunch of other guys there. So Roger Lewis is kind of down on the depth chart right now, but we've seen him, kind of produce in the regular season before. So I'm thinking here that he's going to want to show what he has. He's going to want to be able to move up on the depth chart. It might not be a case about necessarily making the team because he does have some special team role and things of that nature, but I think he's going to want to be one of their guys. So I think right here he's going to seize his opportunity to maybe make an impact in this first preseason game when, you're not going to see Odell, you're not going to see Sterling Shepard. And so hopefully he might actually get some time with the 1s, definitely with the 2s, and so he should see a good bulk of at least the first half, and hopefully he has enough time to really produce and really show what he's got, so that way he's in the conversation moving forward to be one of the main factors in their regular season. All right, the next guy here, Rod Streeter, now with the Buffalo Bills, formerly of the Oakland Raiders. We know, like I said earlier, this is another case. Corey Coleman, this is where he was traded. He was traded to the Bills. And Rod Streeter is definitely, we've seen him in the regular season with the Raiders. He's definitely talented. He was injured last year. The Bills brought him in as a future injured player. He's actually been running with the number ones. That might be changing with the addition of Corey Coleman. But I can't imagine Corey Coleman's going to see extended time here since he was just brought in. He doesn't know the playbook extensively, so he's not going to be able to do much. So I think that's going to open it up for Rod Streeter to see some extra time here. Obviously, the problem with the Bills is the quarterback play. We don't even know who's starting at the moment. If Josh Allen, I think, is listed third on the depth chart. Nathan Peterman might be their starter, and we all saw how that turned out last year. So hopefully he has a competent quarterback to get him the ball. He's quick. He's got hands. He can get open. So that's not the problem. The problem is just going to be who's going to throw him the ball. He should see a bulk of the time, like I said. He's going to take it as a slap in the face that they brought in another receiver. He's going to think that Corey Coleman was brought in to take his spot, and he's going to want to prove himself to the Bills management and Bills coaches that he can play. And especially this is his first preseason with them too. So he's really got to make an impression here if he wants to stick and wants to be on the team and be one of their receivers moving forward. All right. The next guy we're talking about is Kamar Aiken. He had his best season in Baltimore. Actually, he was just under 1,000 yards. I think he caught 8 touchdowns. He was a touchdown machine that year. I remember watching him. It was insane. Couldn't believe how many touchdowns this guy was catching just on a regular basis. And then it seemed like he was going to go off and have a good career, and he kind of fell apart with the Colts. So now he is a member of the Eagles. This is going to be his first offseason, preseason with the Eagles. So they have a ton of talent. We know this. They lost Torrey Smith, but they still, Aguilar showed himself last year as a really good receiver. They lost Jordan Matthews, but they still have a bunch of receivers there that are going to already make the team and be the starters. So Kamar Aiken has to prove himself. That's the bottom line here. With the Colts, he didn't do anything. It's been a couple years since he's really produced in the NFL. But we've seen the talent there. He definitely has some talent. And he's going to want to make this team because of how good they are, how much he feels like he can help them. He's going to want to be one of their guys and be on a winning team. And even if, we're not going to see Wentz, I don't think, and Nick Foles, but that's a good quarterback room. They're turning out quarterbacks. So I'm not too worried about someone that's going to be able to throw him the ball. I think he's going to see extensive time here. You're not going to, the Eagles aren't going to, they know what they have. They know how good they are. They just won the Super Bowl. So they're not going to waste their time hurting anybody that's going to be of major importance to them. So I think Aiken here should see a good bulk of the time. He's going to have someone good to throw him the ball. He's going to be able to get open and maybe find the end zone. So I think he's going to be in a pretty decent spot to succeed here. The next guy we're going to talk about here is a Patriot receiver, and it's going to be Braxton Berrios. He's a rookie, but he was the guy, if anyone remembers, that when the draft was going on, they said, of course, this guy is a Patriot. He looks like a Patriot. So there's a chance that the Patriots receivers, there's a chance for him to even be a starting receiver moving forward into the season, just because, Amendola is gone, Edelman's on 4-game suspension, no Brandon Cooks. There's not much there to start the season, at least. We know Edelman won't be back after 4 games and he serves his suspension, but there's not a ton in that room right now. They just released Jordan Matthews. So Berrios has a huge chance to step up here. Through his highlight tapes, we've seen talent. He can definitely get open. He's going to be able to find open spots in the defense and get some yards after the catch. He's got good hands. He's not going to drop too many passes. So he has a really good shot here to show the coaches that he can be one of their players. He can be a receiver. we shouldn't see too much of Chris Hogan. They know what they have in him. He's going to be one of their guys for sure this year. So I think Barrios will see a lot of time. They're really going to want to see what they have in him. He's got some speed to him. So I think he's going to be a really interesting guy for them to look at because, like I said, they're going to need someone to step up in at least those first 4 weeks of the season. They can't throw the ball to Gronk every play, and that's assuming Gronk's even on the field. So they need someone that's going to be able to catch passes for him, gain some yards, and go from there. So I think it's going to be a really good situation for Barrios to going into tomorrow night's game. And I think he's going to look at that opportunity and see that he has a really good shot here to not only make the team, but make the team as an impact player. And it all starts tomorrow night for him. So I'm looking at Braxton Barrios as one of my main guys. Next guy is going to be a Raven here. So we saw the Ravens last week. The passing game was not that prevalent. They spread the ball around a lot. A couple tight ends, a bunch of stuff like that. However, I think there might be some value here in Jordan Lasley. Rookie receiver. The Ravens drafted 2 rookie receivers, him and Jaleel Scott. Jordan Lasley was once touted as a first-round prospect before he ran into some off-the-field issues. Again, looking at the Ravens reports, we're not going to see too much of Crabtree. Not too much of Snead, maybe a little John Brown. So, and also with Adebayo on IR, and Tim White hasn't been practicing the past couple of days. So there might be some ability for Lashley to maybe sneak into the end of the first team run or play with RG3 / Lamar Jackson and have a good shot to play with, good quarterbacks and find himself in a good situation. He's a big dude, goes up and gets balls. He's got some quickness. He should be able to find the end zone if the opportunity presents himself. So I think he's going to get a good run of time. And again, like I said, with John Brown, Willie Snead, Michael Crabtree, already kind of locked in those top 3 spots, there's a big fight going on for 4 through 6 for the Ravens. And Lashley's going to be one of those guys that's going to want to prove himself and really show that he wants to make the team. And I think he'll be able to do that. So I think he's going to provide some good value tomorrow night. Even if Tim White plays, he's been banged up, so it's not looking like he's going to play extensively. And he's got some special team run on him too. So even his spot on the team isn't necessarily guaranteed, but he's looking a little bit better than some of these rookie receivers. So I think Lashley's going to seize this opportunity and run away with it. All right, next guy here is, I'm going to attempt to pronounce his name. I think I know it. It's Equanimeous St. Brown. So what we're looking at with him, again, a rookie receiver out of Notre Dame. I watched a little bit of him in college. He has talent. He can go catch the football. There's no doubt about it. And if you're listening to Aaron Rodgers lately, you've kind of heard him talk about how bad his rookie receivers or young receivers are. He kind of hinted at the fact that other than Devontae Adams and Randall Cobb, he's working with nothing. So I looked into that a little bit more, and I saw that St. Brown is actually the one that's kind of setting himself apart as one of the better young guys. So he's going to have a chance to prove that tomorrow night. It might not be with Rodgers. I can't imagine Rodgers will play it that much, especially with him being injured last year. So I don't know if we'll see him even at all. But it'll probably be with Brett Hundley. And Hundley did okay last year, but it'll be against the other their opponents, number 2, number 3 defenses anyway. So I'm not worried about that at all. And St. Brown has a big opportunity to set himself even farther apart in real game mode so that Rodgers and the rest of the Packers management can see that he's the guy that they want. He's the guy that's going to want to make the team and continue moving forward in that capacity. So, all those guys should have taken it as, a hit in the mouth that Aaron Rodgers would say that to the media about them. And hopefully it motivates them. Hopefully St. Brown realizes he's got to step it up even further to make sure that he doesn't get cut by the end of this. So starting tomorrow night in real game mode, I think he's going to be all go and looking to really set himself as one of those better young rookie wide receivers for the Packers. And then this last guy I'm going to talk about here, Sammy Coates. So we saw him in Pittsburgh a little bit, former Clemson Tiger. Has some talents, pretty fast, but he never really got a chance with Pittsburgh. Now in Houston, he might have a little bit more of a chance. We know they have DeAndre Hopkins. We know they have Will Fuller. After that, it's a little bit of a crapshoot. So Coates has a chance to maybe come in and be that number 3 receiver. I'm hearing a lot of good things about him. He wants to settle in somewhere. He wants to make a difference on a team. And Houston needs that next guy and that next man up kind of thing. You know, they didn't have Will Fuller for much of last year. So they're looking for a guy that's going to come in and really set himself apart. Sammy Coates is more of a veteran at this point. I believe it's his 3rd or 4th year, maybe even 5th at this point. So he's going to want to make an impact starting tomorrow night. He's going to want to show them that he should be on the team and maybe be one of their guys moving forward. He's been looking good in Houston's camp, as I said. So hopefully he can get some run tomorrow night and show that he's got the talent that we all saw when he was in college. So those are my 9 receivers we're looking at tomorrow night. If I had to name a top 5, this will be in order. I would start with Braxton Berrios, go to Equinemius St. Brown, Sammy Coates, Jordan Lastly, Rashard Higgins. That's a rough top 5, but those are my top 5 out of the 9. I said it would be in order. That's a pretty close order to what I would have. So I'll play a combination of those guys across my lines. I'll mix in some of the other guys I mentioned too. I think they all have a lot of upside here. They're going to see a run at a time and see it with, some of the better quarterbacks. Even if it's not their starting quarterback, it'll be with the number 2 maybe, not necessarily number 3 when the game sort of turns to crap and you don't see a lot of scoring. So I think these guys are in prime position. I really think you could play any of these 9 and be in a good spot to have a leg up on the competition that might be playing some of the starters or something like that. That being said, I'm not going to sit here and say none of the starters are going to score any points, but we're not going to see them for very long. So I'm taking the aggregate time over, the possibility of a 1 drive, 2 drive, maybe touchdown for one of the starters. So these guys should see a bulk of the run during this first preseason game. The coaches are going to want to see them, see what they can produce on the field. So I think they're going to be in a really good spot. All right, and then I'm going to move on to the tight ends here. I only have a few listed just because tight end is such a interesting position here, especially in preseason. A lot of teams have a bunch of them right now, and they don't carry very many of them. So what we're going to look at here is guys with talent or guys that are in a good spot to maybe break into a team. So I have about 4 guys listed, and the first one we're going to start with is O.J. Howard. He was a rookie last year, so this is his 2nd year with Tampa Bay. And we saw how talented he was in college. And even last year, a couple times during the regular season, he broke out for a long touchdown, I remember. But he never really settled in, never really got the chance, especially with Cameron Brate there. He never really got his good run at seeing regular snaps. But that's very usual for rookie tight ends. We don't usually see them produce in their first year. Evan Ingram would be the exception. But other than that, usually rookie tight ends sort of don't play very much or don't produce very much. And it usually has something to do with pass protection or run blocking, just because they're not used to the NFL speed. They're not used to blocking NFL players. So it takes them a little bit longer to get accumulated to that. So looking here, Tampa Bay still has Cameron Brate. So O.J. Howard is still kind of on the outside looking in at a starting position. So that being said, I think tomorrow night Tampa Bay is going to want to use him to sort of see how he's matured, how he's grown in an NFL sense. So I think he's probably going to get some run with the number 1s, but also see some time beyond that. And I think that's going to be really important for him. He's going to need to be able to set himself apart from Cameron Brate if he wants to eventually take over that starting job. But he also has to show that he can pass protect and run block as well. So I think he's going to be on the field a lot. I think he's going to be able to sort of show himself, and then hopefully as the night goes on, he'll get some passes thrown his way, show what he can do with the ball in his hands. So, and, it's going to be sort of not a full offense, so usually you're going to not see a ton of deep balls. So, maybe some checkdowns, maybe some balls over the middle that O.J. Howard's going to be there to catch. So I think he's going to be in a good spot. He's got a ton of talent, like I said, and he's going to want to go out and show that he does. So O.J. Howard is a guy that I'm looking at. The next one I'm looking at is Jason Kroom for the Buffalo Bills. Their starter is Charles Clay, and that's no doubt. But there's a little chance for Kroom here to show what he's got. Nick O'Leary is questionable for tomorrow night, so I don't know how much we're going to see of him. He's been on the Bills for a couple years now, too, so he's going to have his spot set as well, it looks like. But if he doesn't play, Kroom's going to have a bunch of time here to show what he's got. Another guy that, has decent talent and is kind of stuck behind Clay and O'Leary. So if Clay only plays a couple series or doesn't play at all, and O'Leary, isn't able to play very much, we're going to see Kroom for a long time. And he's going to, want to really show that he can play on this team and make a difference. Again, the obvious issue here is going to be the Bills' quarterback situation, but I don't have a ton of concerns about that since it is the preseason and we only see, shell defenses as it is. So Kroom is going to be one of those guys that should see extensive time here and really be able to show himself. The next guy is going to be Xavier Grimble for the Steelers. Another guy. We've seen him in the regular season a couple times. He's a big dude. Catch some balls, catch some touchdowns, a lot of stuff in the red zone. But he's also stuck behind Vance McDonald and Jesse James. Vance McDonald was brought over last year, so Grimble was on the team to begin with, just, battling with Jesse James. Now he's kind of third on the depth chart and kind of buried in that tight end room. So I think he needs a really strong showing in the preseason to even make the team, or make the team in a significant fashion. So I think Grimble will be a really good option here because, like I said, they're kind of locked in on Vance McDonald, and then Jesse James has obviously showed himself over the years as being a reliable tight end. So Grimble might be one of those guys that can maybe catch a ball at the 1-yard line and fall in the end zone and really provide value for you. So hopefully he's one of those guys that wants to go out and prove what he's got and show the Steelers front office what he can do. And then the last tight end I have listed here is Eric Swoop for the Indianapolis Colts. We haven't seen him for a while, but I do remember him playing a little bit back a couple years ago. So he's got some NFL talent. He belongs on an NFL roster, but he missed all of last year because of injury. And now the Colts brought in Eric Ebron, along with Jack Doyle. So another one of those guys that's kind of been buried on the depth chart just because of who they brought in and the talent that's in the room already. So Eric Swoop's another one of those guys that should the opportunity to present himself, maybe find the end zone here. And he's another one of those guys that needs to have a strong preseason to really show the front office or the rest of the league, if he's not able to make the Colts necessarily, that he belongs in the NFL, belongs on a roster. So I think Swoop is another one that we're going to see extensive time from. After missing last year, he's totally healthy now. He was ready for the start of training camp, so he's been practicing. No worries there. So I think the Colts coaches and front office are going to want to see him extensively to make sure that he still has his talent, and he's going to want to show the rest of the league that he can still play and he can still ball. So I think Swoop will be another good option here. So, and I think any of those four guys, I'm going to play a mixture of the four, with pricing the way it is, with everyone being the same price, you can play whoever you want. So I'm going to be playing a mixture of these four guys. I think they're all in really, really good spots here and can hopefully provide some value and maybe some low ownership with this big slate, and hopefully provide an edge over the rest of your tournament or rest of your double up or head to head or whatever you're doing. Provide you with the edge that you need to make some money this week. So that's all I have. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week.